Hello, and welcome to another episode of the PintSizeAnalyze podcast. In this week's podcast, I'm going to be talking about the Seattle Mariners trade deadline. Now, I decided to end up making it one entire video. What ended up happening was in my last episode of recording, I recorded it last Thursday, and as I was recording, the Randy Arozarena trade news dropped, and about 5 minutes later, I ended the podcast and then ended recording and checked my phone, and the Arozarena news had dropped. So I decided to make it all one episode, but that's strictly what I'm going to be talking about for this episode. But yeah, let's get started. The Mariners made 6 trades. All 6 affect their major league roster in some way, although only 4 are direct additions. But yeah, let's get into it. So the first one was definitely the most impactful one. And yeah, that was the addition of 2020 Rookie of the Year All-Star Randy Arozarena. Arozarena was traded for minor league right-handed pitcher Brody Hopkins and minor league outfielder, center fielder, he's played center field, Aiden Smith, and a player to be named later, likely a pitching prospect in the Mariners system. It's been rumored by Ryan Divish that they raise Walter Ford or Teddy McGraw, which of course they do. Those are two very obviously interesting pitchers in the Mariners, and there's a reason why the Mariners selected them in the draft too. But yeah, this is mainly about. This is mainly going to be talking about the actual players that we acquired. I'm not going to be talking a whole lot about the prospects that we gave up, but I do want to say Brody Hopkins was a sick athlete, arguably the best athlete in the system, almost as fast as Farmelo. I believe he was the second fastest. He only lost in a race to Farmelo, and I believe is faster than Julio, which is crazy. And he played. He was a two-way player in college at Campbell University, I believe, or no, Winthrop University, and yeah, he was. He was pretty. He really struggled to throw strikes, but he started to throw strikes this year. The Mariners drafted in the 7th round. He really threw strikes this year and took a great step forward in Modesto. And then Aiden Smith was he was about a 2nd-round talent, and the Mariners gave him 2nd-round money in the 4th round of last year's draft. So it was a ridiculous draft by the Mariners, and they traded more players. You'll see. That I'll talk about for some of their trade deadline returns. But yeah, so it was Aiden Smith and Brody Hopkins. Aiden Smith was also one of my favorite prospects, and he was arguably there's the trio of first rounders in Colt Emerson, Johnny Farmelo, and Ty P. Aiden Smith is almost basically just as talented as those guys. He was an elite prep player in a stacked draft last year, and yeah, I'm sad to see him go, but I know that the Rays are going to utilize both those guys, and yeah, I'm definitely rooting for them. Brody Hopkins, I had a conversation with at spring training. He was sick. He was super cool, super nice guy to talk to. I talked to him for 5 minutes. It was before the canceled breakout game, but yeah, I'm absolutely rooting for those guys in the future going forward. But yeah, let's talk about Randy. Randy was the big deal that the Mariners got. So Randy was he was kind of a little bit of a late bloomer. He really his first full season was 2021. Although if you recall in the 2020 playoffs, he absolutely went off and set the MLB record for home runs in a playoff. In a playoffs, with I believe it was 14 over the 2020 playoffs. The Rays ended up losing that World Series, but he carried them throughout that playoff run, and he was raked in the regular season too, although that was only in 75 plate appearances. But then in the 2021 season, he was the favored Rookie of the Year, and he absolutely crushed it that year. It was his best season. He put up 4 F4, but he's been a 3 F4 player in every season since. He's not really on pace for that this year, but he's also under club control for 2 more years. But in that 2021 season, he put up a 127 WRC plus with 4 F4, and then in the 2 years since, 2.9 F4 and 3.1 F4 at 124 and 126 WRC plus, and then on the season he's at a 112 WRC plus. He had a really kind of bad first few months of the season, but he's really started to turn it around. He started to turn it around in June and July. If we go to splits, that's what I'm looking for. If it will load. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So in March/April, he had a 36 WRC plus, and then in May, 103. That's not great, but a lot more acceptable. And then a lot more like Randy Arozarena, and then and then 162 167 in June and July. So like WRC plus in the 160s in June and July. That's, I don't think, going to continue as a Mariner, but he could. I mean, I think he could very likely put up like 120 WRC plus production as a Mariner, and he's under club control for 2 more years. I love this trade for the Mariners. Brody Hopkins, and I also do. Actually, I do. I think giving some context about the minor leaguers is important because I do want to talk about the trades a little bit more in a vacuum. But I love this trade for the Mariners. I mean, I really do. Randy Arozarena is going to get more expensive in the next 2 years, but he's his first year of arbitration is next year, and actually I think it's this year because he's making $8 million. So he's first year ARB eligible, but he's going to be Mariners are going to have him for this year, and they're going to have him for 2025 and 2026. He adds like an electric counterpart to Julio as like a perennial 3-win player. He's not a superstar. I will say like I believe Julio is like a genuine superstar, although Julio hasn't performed like it this year. But Julio's like has been a perennial 5-win player. Randy Arozarena is not a perennial 5-win player. His best season was only 4 wins, and Julio obviously has like 7-win talent. Randy Arozarena, I don't think, has 7-win talent. But with that being said, though, still he's just such an exciting pickup. He always steps up in the big moments. If you've watched him, like in that 2020 playoff run that I mentioned, that was so electric. If you watched the World Baseball Classic last year, he was so exciting. His shrugging shoulders, or just like this pose, is iconic. He made a ridiculous catch in the All-Star game last year in Seattle, and then did that as well. So there's already like a sick gif of him doing that in teal. Sorry for hitting the mic, but yeah. So yeah, Randy is going to be an electric player. He's kind of similar to Teoscar Hernandez, I'll be honest, in the sense that he can be like a little bit frustrating in that like sometimes he can be a little aggressive on the bases, or like sometimes it's like, okay, dude, you're like really fast, and you have like a bigger arm. Why are you struggling in the outfield? But still, I'm not trying to dampen this at all. That's just kind of the reality with Randy, is that it's kind of an adventurous corner outfield, and he'll play left. But so that's exciting. And for the rest down the stretch, whether he gets re-signed or not is a whole different thing. But down the stretch, he's going to provide a pretty exciting outfield with Victor Robles, Randy, and Julio hopefully starting. So let's look up Randy's Savant page. So this year he's kind of definitely struggled. Still, he actually does not chase a lot, and he actually walks a really good amount, which is good for the Mariners lineup. He also doesn't strike out a lot. That's one thing that he is different from Teo about. Only like a 24.6 K percentage, which is actually 30th percentile. But for the Mariners lineup, like any regular with a K percentage under 30 or under 25 looks great. So like that 24% K percentage looks kind of minimal or minuscule. I mean, but yeah, Randy is still in the 65th percentile for xWOBA. But yeah, he's 66th percentile for bat speed too. So like he swings fast. He very like legit tools. Actually, his arm's not great. And his outfield defense only 10th percentile, -5 OA. So yeah, it's an adventurous outfield. But like I said, he's still got real offensive tools, still like real offensive talent. 66 or 62nd percentile in barrel percentage. But let's go back to like 2023 because I am curious. So yeah, this last year is like you'll definitely see like that it looks like a down year for him a bit offensively. And like the Savant page proves that. I also heard that he was trying to make some kind of approach changes in the beginning or in the offseason that might have contributed to the offensive struggles early in the year, kind of akin to Julio, who, made some switches and then made the switch back. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. No bat speed, but yeah. And then let's see, like 2022. Oh, wow. When in 2022, when he did have, I believe that was like a 3.1 win season or 2.9 win season, and like a 126 WRC plus or 124, the peripherals, like the Savant page, looked, worse than it does now. So that's really, really interesting. He was not walking as much. Let's see about 2021, because this was his rookie year, his best year. Yeah, wow. So his Savant page, like, kind of overwhelmingly looks best last year, or, yeah, I'd say last year. And then this year. So yeah, that's really interesting. Let's see some of the other numbers though, because I'm also curious. He I'm curious just about like the max exit velo numbers. Okay, so max exit velo is down by 2 miles an hour, but even in 2021, it was only like at 112, so that's not that big of a deal. Overall barrel percentage is like still healthy, even though it's not where it was at 12.3% last year. And yeah, actually, he's kind of underperforming his X-Wobas. That's interesting. Um, let's see the run value numbers. So he hits fastballs kind of well. Honestly, he only really particularly hits sliders well, which is, I mean, that's still great. The Mariners kind of struggle against spin. So yeah, I think that's important. And yeah, that's kind of about it for Arozarena. Let's see over like his rolling Excel was great. It's like in the 400s over his last 100 plate appearances. So yeah, that's really that's a great sign. It's crazy how many like singles he has. He actually kind of has like a good amount of infield singles, and like this might just be his 2024 spray chart, but there's a lot of like condensed batted balls and even like doubles like right past the third baseman, I guess, or maybe down the line. And there's still some of it, but it still looks like he's kind of hitting the ball further, and that kind of might have been like the kind of the trying to spray the ball to all fields approach that's kind of caused him to hit more balls in the infield this year or earlier in the year. But yeah, yeah, he's still got like a lot, really legit power though, and is like a real slugger. Has I'm not sure if he's hit 30 home runs, but I think he has 30 home run upside. Okay, yeah, so his career high is only 23, so maybe he's not, maybe he doesn't have. Well, I don't know though. I still feel like Randy Arozarena could have 30 home run upside. I don't think that's that crazy to say. So yeah, that's really all that there is for Randy. The next trade the Mariners gave up was right-handed relief pitcher Yimi Garcia, who's a rental for Jonathan Clase and minor league for outfielder Jonathan Clase, who is in AAA or was in AAA, but was called up to the majors, and minor league catcher Jacob Sharp. Jacob Sharp was in Low and Modesto. He was like contact hitting. He only struck out like 9 times in 119 plate appearances. Not a top 30 prospect, but was in the org, but was also a member of the last year's draft, and was just like a complimentary org depth piece for the Blue Jays in that piece or in that trade. Obviously, Jonathan Clase was the main piece. But the Mariners again got Yimi Garcia, or it looks like Yimi Garcia, but it is pronounced Jimmy Garcia. I should actually make that very clear. So yeah, they got right-handed relief pitchers Jimmy Garcia for outfielder Jonathan Clase and minor league catcher Jacob Sharp. Garcia, Jimmy has dealt with some issues, like injury issues, but this season, but has been really an effective reliever. Not a lot of saves, which is kind of why the Mariners didn't have to pay as much for him as compared to like a Tanner Scott of the Marlins, now Padres, who required like a multiple prospect haul. Not the same for Jimmy. He only required like Class A, who was the main piece. But yeah, he's got a 36K percentages here. We'll see. Let's scroll down. 36K percentages here. 6% walk rate. 29.6 K minus walk rate. 2.52 FIP. Let's see about ERA. 2.5 or 2.45 ERA. 2.47 xERA. So yeah, he's just been dominant. Really, only his like past season, and he's 33. So really, like his only past season, I'd say, of like performing in or really doing a lot of high leverage stuff was for the Blue Jays in 2022. He was not as great last year, but yeah, he's like the K numbers have gone up year by year over the past couple of years for him, which is really interesting as he's gotten older. But yeah, he's like a legit high leverage weapon to go along with Gregory Santos and Andres Munoz and Colin Snyder and Taylor Saucedo and whoever else they have doing high leverage. So let's go to Jimmy, Savant page. So yeah, like I said, Jimmy's 33 years old. Savon Page is great. It's not qualified because he has only pitched. Oh, I meant to say that he's only pitched 33 innings this year. So actually, not a tiny amount, but he's been on the injured list for a while. Doesn't get a lot of extension, but fastball velos really really good, 85th percentile. Yeah, he brings the velo. It's got legit breaking ball too. And yeah, he's just I'm excited for Jimmy. He's going to be a legit piece. He said he'd packed all his bags and was ready to go to Seattle. And also, I really think the Mariners did not pay a whole lot in trade capital for him. I mean, Clase was still an exciting piece, fourth outfielder more likely, but kind of maybe more upside there. But yeah, I'm just excited that they were able to capitalize on Clase because he didn't really have a spot at the major league level this year. So yeah, I think it was worth it to capitalize on that value, and he had performed well in AAA, and they got a legit high leverage reliever for down the stretch. The third trade was going to be Ty France for minor league catcher Andrew Salcedo. Andrew Salcedo is just going to be basically minor league org depth, maybe for Jacob Sharp, but he's been an A-ball, and then Ty France was designated for assignment, obviously, which was covered in the previous episode. He was, and there was also cash that was kind of exchanged. I don't really know. If you look it up, I was honestly confused. I believe the Mariners gave up $1 million and Ty France owed $2 million the rest of the season, or something like that, and then they got Andrew Salcedo back, or something like that. And then trade number 4 was Ryan Stanek for minor league second baseman / third baseman Ryland Thomas. Ryan Stanek kind of provided the Mariners some good high leverage innings, but was kind of shaky all year, and wasn't making a whole lot. But I believe it was kind of to balance out some salary. Maybe that. Don't quote me on that though. I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, Ryan Stanek is to New York, and New York was buying, so they just kind of wanted to take a chance on a reliever who might just have needed a quick change of scenery. Stanek, still got electric stuff, but can't always command it. So yeah. And yeah, thank you to Ryan Stanek. And then the next one, the 5th trade was, and for second position player trade for the Mariners acquisition, it was for third baseman / first baseman / DH. I put / infield. Justin Turner from the Blue Jays for minor league outfielder R.J. Schreck. R.J. Schreck had creeped onto the top 30 in most organizational lists after an excellent performance in high A. He was drafted in like the 17th round, or no, the 9th round by the Mariners, last year, and then was recently promoted to Double A Arkansas. Schreck, I saw him in high A Arkansas, the game I went to. He performed well. I believe he had a double that game and just had really competitive at bats. So it's not surprising why the Blue Jays just wanted to take a risk on him. Justin Turner is obviously a rental. His contract's up after this year, and but yeah, let's get into it. Justin Turner has really not had a great season. And he kind of got off to a hot start, but still has a 110 WRC plus on the season overall, and most importantly is going to provide the Mariners lineup with a lot of contact and veteran presence. But really, I think the kind of contact and batted ball capabilities that he has are kind of why the Mariners signed him or traded for him. Justin Turner, obviously one of the longest serving major league players. I believe the second longest behind Justin Verlander or something like that, or third longest, maybe Joey Votto. But yeah, Justin Turner's 39. Let's see, 13 years of service time. He was a 7th rounder in 2006. That's crazy. But yeah, 109 WRC plus in the season. He's consistently posted a 110 WRC plus every year since 2014, or over 110 WRC plus. Not going to be a huge slugger, but yeah, only a 347 OBP, 369 slug, but that 347 OBP is important, and the 255 average. He can hit for a little average in 2024, and yeah, he is not going to play a lot of defense either. He's going to be first base or DH, and then maybe play some third. I think the Red Sox or the Blue Jays had him playing some third, and then the Red Sox last year had him playing some third, but we'll see. It's mainly going to be first base and DH for Mr. Turner. And yeah, he also said he was excited to be in Seattle. Let's go to his Savant page, and the Mariners really didn't give up anything for him, anything notable. Okay, yeah. So wow, this is crazy. 62nd percentile in Excel still, and 60th in XBA, but barrel percentage and like batted ball metrics are really down. Does a lot of speed, a lot of sweet spots, but then 67th in chase, 91st in whiff, 76th in K percentage, and 82nd in walk percentage. So he does what the Mariners need right now, which is put the ball in contact a lot, or put the ball in play a lot, makes a lot of contact, does not strike out a lot, does not whiff a lot, does not chase a lot. Like that's just really what their lineup is lacking right now. And yeah, squares up the ball a lot, which I think they have some players who square up the ball a fair amount. But yeah, only a 720 OPS this year for Turner, which is slightly different than what Fangraphs had, I believe. I thought it said 718 or something like that, but it might just be like a calculation error. Yeah, because it said he had 258 average. Oh, it might be updated for today. But yeah, anyway, so Turner, not a huge deal, but he's going to be a free agent after this year, just like a little rental. And yeah, he's some important infield depth, some helpful infield depth. All right, and the sixth and final trade was for right-handed relief pitcher JT Chargois from the Marlins. The Marlins were one of the biggest sellers. Really, the Mariners took advantage of kind of most of the other big sellers. The Marlins and then the Rays were a notable seller, even though the Rays are kind of in contention. And then the Blue Jays were obviously a big seller. The Mariners had 2 trades with them. The Blue Jays didn't go all in selling. They didn't trade Vlad or Bichette or whatever, but they were obvious sellers. So yeah, let's talk about the JT Chargois acquisition real quick. JT Chargois, if you actually remember, was a Seattle Mariner during the 2021 season. I believe he was signed as a minor league free agent that year or something like that, and was traded for Diego Castillo or was traded with Austin Shenton, who was in high A Everett at the time, for Diego Castillo. And he was traded for right-handed relief pitcher Will Schomburg, who actually had filthy stuff. He was in Modesto. He had like a 30% K percentage, and he was an undrafted free agent last year out of Davidson. So great value for the Mariners organization to be able to get Chargois. Chargois is a free agent after this year too, but he's posted, I mean, 1.62 ERA, 5.21 xERA, 5.32 FIP, 4.96 xFIP. So yeah, the peripherals are terrible. It's only been 16 innings pitched. The ERA is 1.62. The Mariners obviously don't think that 1.62 ERA is going to continue. They probably expect him to be at like 3.5 or something, but he's going to be a completely serviceable, like, medium or even low leverage reliever. And that's, really all they're asking him to be. He's kind of the Stanek replacement or something, or like additional help. But he will have to stay on the roster. So only a 16% K percentage, 9% walk percentage. So yeah, like the peripherals are really, really uninspiring. But yeah, he's just kind of going to be a nice medium leverage relief arm to have, and it's also kind of fun because he was a former Mariner. So yeah. That's about it. That's going to be about it for this episode. I was really, really, honestly, overall happy with the Mariners' deadline. I thought they made some impactful additions. There was a lot of hope for like a Vlad or even like a Bichette or like a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or like Luis Robert Jr. And people had been hoping for that for months. But then it became more like, maybe Yandy Diaz or Isaac Paredes. Isaac Paredes ended up going to the Cubs, but Yandy Diaz looked like maybe the big bat that they could end up acquiring down the stretch. That obviously didn't end up happening. They were kind of bidding with Houston and New York, and then the Rays really didn't like any offer they ended up getting. So yeah, that was about it for the trade deadline. That's about it for this episode. It was a really, really eventful trade deadline. No top 100 prospect for Baseball America. Only 2 for MLB Pipeline ended up being moved. So not a whole lot of prospects ended up being moved. And like Brody Hopkins and Aiden Smith are like 2 of the consensus top 10 best prospects moved. But they were still like in the top 15 for the Mariners system. The Mariners didn't move any of their like arguable 6 to 9 top 100 prospects. Aiden Smith actually should be in top 100 contention this year and definitely will be soon. But yeah, that's about it for this episode. Don't be surprised Brody Hopkins is too. The Rays are going to like kill it developing those guys. But yeah, I'm really, really happy. Still, you should be very, very happy with getting Randy. Excellent value out of the draft last year. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. I'm really happy with this draft, or with how the draft helped, and I'm really happy with this deadline. Thank you all so much for watching. Peace.